Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing a harmonic balancer install on a 328D along with a belt tensioner and a belt. And this is kind of going to be my first video to doing BMW repairs on these. And I also have a cool build coming up that I want you guys to follow. And yeah, let's get to it. Alrighty, so today we have a Vico balancer here. I got this from Rock Auto. It came the next day. This was kind of a rush job, so I just ordered from Rock Auto and it came the next day. So I'm going to be installing this, and then since I'm in there, I'll be doing the belt tensioner and the idler pulley as well. It's one unit. It's actually pretty slick. This is a Continental part. Part number is right there, 49852. I also got a Continental belt. This only has one belt, unlike the previous diesels where it was two belts, one run the AC. This is just one. It's a 1698 belt. And the balancer part number V203209. So this is what I will be installing. Turn on my light here. So this is actually my first time doing a balancer on this vehicle, but I am pretty familiar with doing balancers before. So let's get to it. First things first, I'm going to take off the air box. So I think it's pretty straightforward. Let me get some gloves and we'll get on it right now. So first things first, we'll take off the air box, and that should expose a majority of the front of the engine, which is what we need access to. We'll take off this cover right here. And for this air box, I believe it's just rubber mounted. So we'll pull up on these. We'll release the hood cable right here like so. And then we'll remove the mass airflow sensor pin right here. And then there's also a hose clamp on the bottom. So we'll get in there and remove that as well. This hose clamp is a number 6mm. Get that out of the way and wiggle this off. Got a secondary hose right here. There's two clips on it. And wiggle that off as well. All right, we got the airbox out of the way. Set that aside. Okay, now we have the air intake right here, which will remove this to get access to the balancer. I really don't need to take this off, but it'll be helpful to get out of the way. So let's remove this. So this is the CCV hose for it. So take that off, and then take this clip here for the coolant line. Take that off. There's a number 10mm right there. We'll get that out of the way, the bolt. Get that out of the way. I have these handy little separation trays that I put all my nuts and bolts in, so they don't get lost. Alrighty. Let's get, so there's a C-clip on the turbo inlet down here. So I'll get this off and I'll show you what it looks like once I get it off. I know it's kind of hard to see. right. All right, so here is the intake tube. So what I did was, there's a C-clip right here. I just pulled down on it and it allowed me to wiggle it off. You also have the CCV hose. You gotta depress this and then push this in and wiggle it off as well. And then there's a 10mm mounting bolt on it right there. So that's off, out of the way. All right, so let me get you guys a better angle here. So now we have a pretty good access to the Harmonic Balancer. And it looks like we gotta take this acoustic stamping pad off. So it looks like a T30 there, a plastic push-in, and a 10mm nut. So let's get to it. Start with the push-in first. Push-in. Set aside. Grab the 10mm down here. That's off. We'll get the T30 next. Okay, we should be able to snake this cover right off. Yep. Alrighty, cool. Okay, as you can see, we have a nice clear shot for the balancer right here. And it is cracked too, so it doesn't have much life left in it, that's for sure. Alrighty, let's get the belt off first. That appears to be, it's either a 14 or, oh, not a 15 either. So the tensioner is a 16mm. So push down on that, snake that belt off. Perfect. Alrighty, the belt is off. Perfect. Alright, now we could either just go at the Harmonic Balancer, but this thing has 170,000 miles on it. The pulleys aren't really bad at all, but we're just going to change that out for preventative maintenance. So, alrighty, let's get at it. I am looking for a lock pin. So on the balancer right now, it has a lock pin in it, so you could put the belt on. Well, the problem is it's on the vehicle like this, and the tensioner is covering up this bolt hole. So I'm going to use my pick and lock it in place on the vehicle so I could access this bolt hole. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Alright, it worked like a charm. Those look pretty big. They kind of look like a T40. Let's check out and see what size they are. Could even be a T50. Yep, so the tensioner is a T50. So I'll grab my impact and take that off. There's one bolt. And there's the other bolt. And voila. Just 2 bolts holding the tensioner on. As you can see, I just used my pick so I could get access to this bolt. We'll set that aside. We'll put the new one on. This really isn't that bad of a job. Like I said, this is my first time doing a 328 balancer, and I mean, there's not much to it. But with that said, I couldn't imagine what BMW would charge to do this. It's probably quite a bit. All right, we'll torque it to spec, 60 foot-pounds. Oh, actually. $60 Newton meters. There's one. Two. Done. Alrighty, now it's time for the balancer right there. Now for the balancer, there's 2 ways you could do this. So what we need to do is lock the engine down. In order to do this, BMW makes a special tool that sits here and connects to the idler pulley, which I don't have. But the second method, which I do have, is down by the DPF here, there is a hole on the bottom of the block that goes through, and you could lock it with a flywheel. So with that being said, here's my tool. There's a flywheel lock pin. So if you go down there on your vehicle, you'll see a little cap like this normally. So you pull this cap off, and then you put in this lock pin tool, and then you could lock the flywheel down. So you could A, either get those bolts off, or B, tighten those up. I don't need it to loosen up those bolts really, but I definitely need it to tighten those bolts. And I'll show you why I don't need it to loosen them. Because I have my handy dandy impact. I got my stubby impact from Milwaukee with the E12 on it, and this works for getting them off. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4. And then just pull straight on out. Now the special thing with this harmonic balancer is there's a seal around here, and it actually seals the oil. You could replace that if you want, but this customer chose not to, and honestly it's not that big of a deal if you don't. If it does start leaking, then yes, you'll have to pull it off and reseal it, but The pulley has a nice beveled edge here, so when you put it on, you're not going to ruin it. So here is the old Harmonic Balancer, and as you can see, this has 170,000 miles on it. It is starting to crack all along here. And what happens is over time, this cracks and free spins, and now you have A, no battery charging for your engine, and B, no power steering, no air conditioning, no nothing. So once the battery dies, you're stranded. You're stranded until you replace this, have a tow truck come, etc. So this is out. And yeah, we have the brand new one. So yeah. So what I'm going to do is, before I install this, I put some transmission lube on it so it goes in nice and seats really nice with the seal on down there. So I have this Transgel Gold, and I love using this stuff. So for intercooler seals, it's awesome, and just assembling stuff, it's great. So I'll put a thin coat on there. That way it goes on nice and easy for me. All right. So now let's install this. All right. Grab my new bolts. There's 1 in, 2, 3, and 4. Just go and snug them down. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now that those are all in, I'm going to install my lock pin tool, which is right down over there underneath the DPF. Okay, so I'm in. I do have a fancy tool to turn the crank. If you don't have one, you could just use the E12 and turn it by that, but I'm going to turn it. That way I know it's locked in. All right, I got caught in there, so now I can torque it down. So if you have new bolts, the torque spec is 29 foot-pounds and then 120 degrees for new bolts. So I'm going to do that. Then after that, we're going to put this all back together. Okay, we're all torqued. Now it's time for the belt. And I have no idea how this goes in, but I'm sure I can figure it out. All right, so I have this torque to spec. The belt diagram goes from the harmonic balancer to the tensioner pulley, around the water pump, over to the alternator, around the idler pulley, and around the air conditioning, and back to the harmonic balancer. Okay, so all that we have left to do is I have to pull the lock pin. Do not forget about that, because that will not be a fun day. So I back off just a millimeter, and then I'm able to reach down and pull that out. Come on. All right, aha, I got it. So now that that's off, next thing to do is let's pull the pin on the tensioner pulley with our 16. All right, the pin's all out. All the belt is in the groove like it should be. And so the next step is we're going to install the insulation cover over it. We'll put on the intake scoop in there, put on the CCV hose, put the airbox back together, engine cover on, and it's all buttoned up. So I already showed you guys how to take that off, so you should be able to know how to put it back on. So that's that. All right, that job's all complete. And that's how you change your harmonic balancer in about 20 minutes. Wasn't too bad. All right, thank you guys. Thanks for watching.